Hello everyone. Today I am explaining you chapter 2 genetics, and in this chapter I will be explaining you about various experiments of Mendel on inheritance. Now, as you know, Mendel is known as father of genetics because he has given us 3 laws of genetics. He experimented on Pisum sativum, the pea plant. Pisum sativum was selected by Mendel because of various reasons. Some of the reasons were that pea plant has many characters with forms called traits. Now, what is character and what are traits? You must know this. Any feature which is inherited from parents to offspring is known as character. And each character has 2 alternative forms. These 2 alternative forms are called traits. Now I'll explain you from here. As Pisum sativum had these all characters, color of flower. Now color of flower is character. It has 2 alternative forms. Color may be purple or color may be white. So these purple and white, these are 2 alternative forms. They are called traits of same character, color of flower. Same way, shape of the seed was round or wrinkled. So wrinkled and round are 2 alternative forms, that means traits of same character, shape of the seed. Color of the seed, green or yellow. Yellow was dominant. Now dominant and recessive also I will be explaining you with the help of Monohybrid Cross. Height of a plant, tall or short, 2 alternative forms, that means traits of same character, height of plant. Now Mendel experimented on pea plant. His crosses are known as monohybrid cross and dihybrid cross. First let's take monohybrid cross. Now what is this mono? Mono means 1. Mendel, he experimented many times. First he selected any of the character, means 2 plants which were crossed, he considered only 1 character at a time. I'll explain you this by flowchart. What did he do in monohybrid cross? Only 1 character. Remember, characters are controlled by genes. This word gene was not known at the time of Mendel. So he called the same thing he called factor. That means he said that characters are controlled by factors. Okay. And each character is controlled by 2 factors. But gene word was introduced later on in 1909 by Johnson. So that time he did not use the word gene. What happened in monohybrid cross? He considered 1 character, that is height of the plant. So height of the plant was tall or second trait was short, because he took 1 character with 2 contrasting traits. So one was tall plant and was crossed with short plant. Now this is also called a phenotype. Now another term, phenotype. Externally, whatever feature is expressed, whatever feature we can see, that is known as phenotype. This is called a phenotype. So this is phenotype. I'll just write it short. In short, it is phenotype. Each trait is controlled by 2 factors. So for tall, he used capital T and capital T. Remember, the trait which is dominant. Now see what is dominant. You will see the result in first generation that out of these tall and short trait, only 1 trait will be visible in first generation, in F1 generation. The character or the trait which is visible in first generation out of these 2 is called dominant trait. So here dominant trait is tallness, and dominant traits are always, symbolized by capital letters. Same way short will be written as small t as it is recessive. Now recessive trait is the trait which cannot express itself in first generation and it will remain hidden. Alright. Now see, what will happen? This is called genotype. I'll write in short, genotype. So what is genotype? Genetic constitution of a character. Genetic constitution of a trait is known as a genotype. So tall genotype is TT. Short height, the genotype is TT, small t, small t. Now, during sexual reproduction, you all know that gametes are formed. Now, gametes will be formed. These gametes are T and T. They will get separated. At the time of formation of gametes, these factors or these genes will get separated. And here, these will be small t and small t. What will happen at the time of fertilization? Gametes will fuse together. So this T will fuse together to form combination TT. And this with another T will form the combination TT. This is genotype. And the phenotype will be tall. Means in F1 generation, this is F1 generation, all plants were found tall. Not a single plant was found short. And this tall plant, now dominant character, dominant trait is visible in first generation. Remember, one factor, if one factor is present, it can express itself as tall plant. Means this is called heterozygous condition. Heterozygous means both the genes or both the factors are not same, they are different. So what is a dominant trait? In heterozygous condition, the trait which is visible or the gene or the factor which is able to express itself is known as a dominant trait. Alright. So this was the result of F1 generation. Let us see what happens in F2 generation. Now what will happen in F2 generation? These offsprings, progeny of F1 generation now will become parent of F2 generation. They will become parent now. So in F2 generation, capital T and small t, from here only we are taking, and capital T and small t. Now they will become parent and they will be crossed in the same way as we had crossed in F1 generation. Now again the gametes will be formed, T and T. Remember, this is tall and this is also tall. Both tall plants are crossed together forming these gametes. Now here also capital T and small t. Now cross will take place. That means at the time of fertilization, capital T with capital T, 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 capital T, capital T. You all can see this is tall. Both are T, then also it will express itself as tall. And if one is T, capital T, and one is small t, then also it will express itself as tall. Now this capital T with another T will be forming capital T and small t. So this is also tall because one capital T is sufficient to express itself. This capital T, this small t with a small t will be forming TT. This is short because both are small letters. So what is a recessive trait? Recessive trait is a trait which can express only in the presence of another alternative factor. So this is a recessive trait, and one more will be there. See, one this with this, this with this, this with this will be capital T and small t. This will also be tall. Now you can see from here 3 tall plants. So the ratio was 3:1 in F2 generation. This is F2 generation. This was F1 generation. The ratio of F2 generation is 3:1. 3 are tall and 1 is a short plant. This is phenotypically. Phenotypically means we could see 3 plants are tall and 1 plant is short. This is phenotypically. But if we see genotypically, just say genotypically, capital T, 1, ratio two are hybrids. They are tall, but they are hybrids. So two are hybrids and one was short. So genotypical ratio or genotype ratio is 1:2:1. So this was the result of monohybrid cross. 3:1 phenotypic ratio and 1:2:1 is the genotypic.